Friday, July 31st, 2020, Mesa, Arizona. I love you. HopeInPrison.com. Last night I met with Mike. He owns a dozen or so halfway houses. His business has really suffered during COVID-19. The biggest blow came when the government sent out the stimulus checks back in April. The first thing a bunch of his residents did was go out and spend all the money on drugs and get thrown back in jail. The former inmates' choices reminded me of a somber account in the Book of Mormon that took place about 60 BC. After a time of great upheaval, many of the people had become hardened. Alma chapter 62, verse 41. Fortunately, verse 41 ends on an upbeat note. And many were softened because of their afflictions, insomuch that they did humble themselves before God. Allow me to introduce you to my neighbor Ava, the nice lady in the attached picture. Notice the happy smile on her face. I've known Ava for several years. Every morning at 6 a.m., a very serious Ava shuffles past my house on her morning walk. She always acknowledges my good morning greeting with a slight wave of her hand and continues walking. Ava immigrated to the United States in the early 1980s to escape communism in Eastern Europe. After working 35-ish years back east, she moved to Mesa, Arizona to be near her son and grandchildren. For the last few years, Ava has cared for her yard and has worked at Costco as a food sampling specialist. A month or so back, Antonia, my wife, noticed that Ava's yard was getting a little overgrown. When Antonia suggested that the missionaries could come and help pull the weeds, Ava panicked. She said, No, missionaries are trouble. I don't want any trouble. Last week I invited the elders to go with me on my morning walk. On Sunday morning at 5:45, with permission from their president, the missionaries got to my house. With Cusco and Pacha, my puppies, we started on our walk. 45 minutes later, we ran into Ava. I introduced Elder Tafanai and Scholes to her. When I suggested they could help with her yard, Ava said yes. At 7 a.m. on Thursday, Elder Scholes, Elder Carr, and Elder Bowman, there were transfers on Tuesday, arrived. They attacked the weeds in Ava's yard with all the enthusiasm and energy of young missionaries. By the time I had to leave for work, Ava was in the yard helping. The elders texted me that Ava taught them a phrase in Hungarian, Szeretlek, which means, I love you. Footnotes. Halfway house. When an inmate gets out of jail, they often go to a halfway house to live. There isn't complete freedom there, but maybe only half the restrictions there were in prison. Stimulus checks. Back in March of this year, an IRS agent came and spoke to the Arizona Society of CPAs. She said the government was making a big push to get stimulus checks to everyone who didn't normally file a tax return. Unfortunately, a lot of that money went for drugs instead of housing. Book of Mormon. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have several books of scriptures: the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Book of Mormon, another testament of Christ, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. Elders. In the church, young men on missions go by the title of elder. Elder is an office in the Melchizedek priesthood. Transfers. Every 6 weeks, the mission president moves the missionaries around as needed.